Hey, 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 what's going on, everybody? Welcome to a very exciting live stream right here on the My Gardener channel. This is going to be part one of two different live streams that we're going to do. So this is the very first live stream in this kind of two-part little series here. The first one is going to take place, obviously, it's dark out, just got back from a super long day at the farm, and we're getting stuff ready to go. It is wow, it's really coming along. It's really coming along. So if it looks like I've been outside in frigid, cold temperatures with gusting 40-mile-an-hour winds, you'd be correct. You'd be correct. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Got there at 9 o'clock in the morning, and myself and a couple team members, we put in some time today. We put in some real good time just getting the fence finished up so we can keep the deer out. That's the first project that we're doing, is getting the deer out. But it's been amazing. It's been phenomenal. And it's not without its learning experiences. Like, we've definitely learned a lot. We've made a lot of mistakes already in a week and a half. And we learned a lot of ways to do things just more efficiently. And it's been really fun. It's been super fun. And I just want to thank you guys for allowing me the opportunity to do this, because it's an absolute blast getting to do this. And I know a lot of you are watching for the first time. A lot of you are probably saying, well, what is he even talking about? I thought he was the MI gardener, not the MI farmer. In fact, we got a message from someone that said that they weren't sure they were going to be able to watch us anymore because they didn't really feel like farming content was something they found interesting. So let me first start off by saying that the farm is a place that we are creating to basically be a hub for gardening. It's going to be a gardening-based farm. It's not going to be a traditional farm in the sense that you're probably thinking of when you think of farm. We're going to absolutely do things on a larger scale, but we're going to have different sections of the farm, just a piece of land out in the country, that is going to be dedicated to a certain area is going to be a raised bed garden, right? Just like we have in our videos. We're going to have a certain area be an in-ground garden, which we don't have in our videos. We used to have we called it the cottage garden. And a lot of you loved those videos because it's a little bit different, tiny bit different territory. We're also going to have a section of the farm be dedicated to essentially like a patio garden. We're going to have green stalks and potted containers and things like that in a seating area where you might be able to say that seems like a setup that I could adapt for your garden and your home. And we're going to do as much stuff as we possibly can to bring all the content that we either want to do or currently do into one location under one umbrella, on top of even more content like beekeeping, wildflowers, cut flowers, cover cropping, crop rotations, market gardening, so many different concepts and topics. But the one that I'm going to be talking about today, is I think the most unique thing, because I truly don't see anybody doing this. And I'm really excited about it because part of My Gardener has been to preserve heirlooms. We've always had a passion of preserving heirlooms, and we've always had a passion for community. Those two things, for the very first time ever, have a chance to collide and collaborate. You guys being the community, and us bringing the heirlooms and having the space. Because one thing that I've heard from a lot of people is, I love heirlooms. I love growing a garden. I just don't have the space yet. I don't have a home yet. I can't, I don't have the space where I can grow a tree, or I just don't have the means necessary to do what I'd like to do, but I have a passion for it. And so in that sense, we're going to be facilitating that for you guys so you can make that happen. And I'm really excited about it. Now, how we're going to be doing that is through a portion of the property. Now, obviously, we have a seed shop. If you haven't shopped at mygardener.com, you can get $2 packs of heirloom seeds that are grown using organic methods from US-based farmers. It is awesome. It's absolutely incredible what we are doing for the gardening community in that regard. And that's what a good portion of the land is going to be used for, is for seed saving, seed cultivation. But not just any seeds, heirloom seeds. Heirloom seeds that otherwise are incredibly difficult to find, not very accessible, and we're going to make them available to the masses. We're gonna make them available to you, and that is awesome. But likewise, there's a whole other subset of heirlooms that we don't sell seeds for, that we still are just as passionate about preserving, and those are our fruit varieties. There are so many. In fact, there's just as many heirloom fruit varieties as there are heirloom vegetable varieties. And obviously, having this passion makes us want to preserve them. We want to preserve them and save them, because scientists have said that we have lost about 70%, upwards of 90% of all of our biodiversity that once existed. And that's been done because of commercialization. Farmers, they want to grow one variety of tomato. They want to grow a variety of tomato that's shelf stable, that can be machine picked. Hand picking is time sensitive, it's expensive, and it's not very efficient. But because of that, we've forfeited so many varieties. Inconsistent shape, short shelf life. Maybe it's a little more disease prone. Maybe it's a little more pest prone. Maybe it's not quite as resilient or as hardy as like a hybridized variety of tomato that's intended for the grocery store shelves. However, what happens to the stuff that's not chosen? What happens eventually, if it's not for people like you and I taking up the baton and saying, these are important, these are vital. They are not only vital, but they're also really tasty and delicious, and they have a story. They have a story that if they are gone, the story can live on, but it's not as likely to live on. It's more like, and I'll give you an example before I kind of move into what we're talking about right now. My grandparents were very involved in my life. My grandpa was a farmer. He is a huge reason why I'm into gardening. My grandma was a really big gardener, and she's a really big reason why I got into gardening. They both have since passed. And the problem is that they once told stories that I would love to hear. I love to hear stories of their childhood, about even my childhood, stories that they shared. When they pass, I have to remember all of those stories. Otherwise, I'm way less likely to continue them on. And there's something special about having them there, having them present, where their story can be told. And that's the same thing with heirloom varieties, is that when they're around, you can share the story about that variety. There's a little more of a connection. There's a little more of a bond. For example, the Abe Lincoln tomato. Do you know why? Do you know why it's called the Abe Lincoln tomato? Well, on Abraham Lincoln's farm, there was a group of historians that were excavating a privy. And that privy is basically like a trash dump, essentially. When they came across what then turned into a very evident outhouse dump, basically where they went to the bathroom. And that outhouse dump it was pretty deep, and it had some material in it. I'm just going to call it material. You can fill in the rest, right? It had some material. And part of their mission was to see about the diet of what people were eating back in the day. You know, what were they eating? What was their diet consisting of? And upon further analysis, there were actually seeds encased in that material. And they were actually able to germinate these seeds and sprout them. And because of the significance of this, they were able to bring back an heirloom tomato that was consumed at the time of Abraham Lincoln back to today from Abraham Lincoln's estate, hence the name the Abraham Lincoln tomato. And we carry those seeds over on migardener.com, and that story lives on. But what happens if we don't take up the baton to cultivate that variety and keep it around? It might not be the prettiest. It might not be the most productive. It might not be, by some regards, the most tasty or most sweet or most versatile tomato. It may bruise fairly simply or whatever, right? If we breed it out of existence, it is gone forever. And the story tends to die with it. And there are so many like that. So many like that. And so what we are doing is we are creating an heirloom preserve for seed cultivation of these heirloom seeds, but then also for fruits. And the fruit side of things are just as important in our opinion as the vegetable side. And what this heirloom preserve is going to do is essentially going to be a place, and I say it's a place where plants can be plants and not worry about being turned into a housing development or a golf course. I like golfing, but I don't think every place needs to be a golf course, right? I don't want it to be. I don't want to be turned into a apartment complex. I don't want the land to be turned into a golf course. I don't want the land to be turned into a commercial farm where genetically modified crops are going to be grown for simply profit and land degradation. I don't want those things. This heirloom preserve is a place where plants can be plants, and they're just plants as long as we can possibly hold on to this land and pass it on, or whatever, right? Whatever the succession plan is, when I am no longer able to maintain the land, it continues on. And that's really where you guys come in. That's where you guys come in. So the heirloom preserve is going to start with an orchard, because the best time to plant a fruit tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is today. And so that's where you guys come in, because the heirloom preserve is going to be a community, it's going to be a community effort. Now, it's not going to be open to the public as of yet. We are planning on making it open to the public in the next 3 to 4 years, but obviously there's going to be a lot happening in the next 1 to 2 years. And we don't want to have, I don't want to say distractions, but it's just not ready yet. It's just not ready yet. It's a project, and it's going to take time. For the next 1 to 2 years, we're going to be building out this heirloom preserve and getting everything in place. And then eventually we're going to make it open to the public. But the first thing we want to do is we want to get an orchard established. We want to get an heirloom orchard established. And we've already gone out. And in my hand here are a list of all of the trees we've already purchased. Now, we've purchased them in hopes that you guys are going to help us to reimburse the cost. This is very expensive. This is very, very expensive. And we've already taken delivery of some trees, in fact. And because this was so expensive, a lot of people have actually said, well, we would like to donate a tree. We'd like to adopt a tree. And so I got talking, and I said, I think this could be something that would work. I think a lot of people would really like this. And the more we talked about it, the more people really liked it. And so as of today, over on migardener.com, there's going to be a option for you to adopt a tree. And when you adopt a tree, you're going to be adopting some of these as well as some future trees that we still have land allocated for the orchard. And when you adopt a tree, you can adopt more than one tree. You can adopt 10, 20 trees, whatever. Each one of those trees that you adopt, we're going to, Mrs. Emma Gardner and I are going to take a piece of cedar. We're going to cut a little piece of cedar, and we're going to wood burn the name of who adopted that tree, if you want to adopt it yourself, or if you want your kids to adopt it, whatever, your church group, school group, whatever, right? You can adopt that tree. We will burn the name onto a piece of cedar. We're going to then drill a hole and attach it loosely to a branch that's going to grow with it forever. And so your name will always be attached as a community effort to save and preserve heirlooms in a place where trees can be trees and not be worried about being cut down. And we're going to be good stewards of the land to grow them organically. We're going to be using them for education, for inspiration. We're going to be doing, like I said, there will be ways for us to help raise money for the farm. When the fruits start to come of ripeness, we obviously plan on hopefully selling some fruit to help the farm operations, because it's a very expensive, very, very expensive farm. Very expensive. And just different ways to help to kind of fund the farm operations so we can continue to do this in an economically viable way. And then obviously excess produce would also be donated to local soup kitchens and to the needy and to those less fortunate, as they always are, 100%. But then also, we're also planning on, in the next 3 or 4 years, once the fruit starts coming on, we'll also do things like tasting parties where the community is going to be invited out to the farm, and we're going to have an opportunity for people to taste the different apples on the tree, and you can see the tags. You can see your tree that you are adopting, and it is a very, very community-based effort. So I am very excited about it. I will say there's no profit motive for adopting these trees. The cost of the tree is how much it cost us. So we went out and we actually made some agreements with different nurseries and farmers and greenhouses that actually do this type of thing. And we've gotten quite a few. And basically we've agreed to these prices so we could make it one flat price. Like I said, the price is basically covering the tree. And then there's about a $2 add-on charge to cover things like the processing fee, as well as other materials. So we needed to buy some compost to add to the planting hole. And we also needed to buy some mulch. We didn't buy the mulch. They're bringing it for free, but they asked us if they would pay for gas because it's a little bit out there in the middle of nowhere. And so the tree trimming company is bringing us a ton of mulch, and we're just paying for their gas. So there's a few nominal charges we've kind of added on to each tree. But what the amazing thing is that the total price for the tree, to adopt a tree on the farm is going to be there forever with your name on it, is going to be $39.99. And that's the price that we have, the tree costs $37.99. And so we've just added those $2 additional to basically cover all the rest of the trees. And that way we can get them going and get them established. So yeah. So do you guys want to know the trees that we're getting for the orchard, or that you can adopt? Now, also, I've seen a couple of people say, can we pick specific trees? Unfortunately, right now you can't. You can't pick a specific tree because it's always going to be varying based on availability. When these trees come in, we're going to have Mrs. Emma Gardner and I are going to be making the tags, and the tags we're going to just basically put onto a tree, and you'll be able to find that tree. It will be somewhere, but it logistically becomes very difficult for us with how many varieties we're going to be carrying. It makes it almost impossible for us to say, you've adopted a Macintosh apple and here's exactly where it's going to be. That's a little challenging. So please forgive me on that. But you will get a tree donated in your name to the farm, and so you can't pick a specific tree, and you also can't pick a specific type of tree. I'm going to get into that. We have lots of different types as well. We have apples, pears, peaches, plums, nectarines. Did you know there were over 30 varieties of heirloom peaches? In fact, we can access from two of our different nursery stock sources, we can access 50 heirloom peaches. Now, sadly, only about 20 will grow in our area because we're in a more northern climate. But we are going to have, eventually, we're going to have 20 varieties of heirloom peaches. Crazy. We're going to have upwards of 20 different varieties of heirloom pears. We're going to have at least 10 varieties of heirloom cherries. Heirloom cherries. Like you've probably only ever seen one or two different cherry varieties. We're going to have upwards of 10 different varieties of heirloom cherries that have been grown. For some have been grown for hundreds of years. Hundreds of years. We're going to have pawpaw trees. Pawpaw trees. We're going to have the largest native North American fruit growing on our farm. And that's just the beginning. That's just the beginning. So do you guys want to know some of the varieties? I got lists. Got lists. All right. I got some lists. All right. So starting with page 1. All right, you guys definitely want to hear. Okay, starting with page 1. We have, and some of these are in alphabetical order, not all of them are. So we are going to be getting, we try to keep it to about 2 trees per variety in case something happens. Why did there balloons? I don't know why there was balloons. Was there balloons for you? I don't know what that was. That was weird. Okay. Anyways, so we are going to have 2 trees of every single variety, simply because yeah, I don't know why there was balloons. That was random. Balloons, yeah. I think it was because I did the 2. Maybe does this do balloons? That does balloon. Why does that do balloons? Why does that do balloons? Anyways, celebrations, I guess. Okay. So, who the heck knows? Anyways, I didn't do that. So, okay. So, yes, the reason why we're doing 2, at least 2 of each, is because if something were to happen, we are going to, that way we have like a fallback option. So we have, we have 2 Elmata apples, 2 of the Bulmer's Norman apple. Again, you can look up some of these names. They're crazy. The backstories are amazing. I definitely don't have time to go into the backstories right now, but at the farm, when we eventually make this open to the public, there will be a booklet, and that booklet you can flip through alphabetically, and it will show you where it's at in the farm, kind of like a little guide to get to it, and it will also have a backstory on the apple, so you can actually learn about it and then taste it when that time comes. Okay, we have 2 Canadian strawberry apples, 2 Chisel Jersey apples, 4 Cortlands. That is a crowd favorite, so we had to get 4 simply because it's like the fan favorite apple. 2 Dabonet apples, 2 Ellie's bitter apple. Now, it's not actually bitter. A lot of these apples are so old that the historic use for a lot of these apples were cider apples. So you can sure bet we're going to have cider day at the farm. Something we're already planning on doing when the apples start to become ripe. Is we're going to have an apple pressing day where everyone just kind of comes around. We kind of make cider and we'll have donuts, and it'll be a good time. It'll be a great time. So really, really fun. We also are getting 2 famous snow apple. Those are apples that hang on the tree after all the leaves have dropped and there's snow on the ground. Those apples stay on the tree. Very, very important. A long holding apple is so important. 2 foxwhelp apples. 2 gala. It's a favorite of everybody's. 2 ginger gold. 2 gold rush apples. 2 golden delicious. There's going to be some you're probably aware of, but that just because they're popular doesn't mean they're not important, right? 2 Granny Smith. 2 Gravensteins. 2 Harry Masters Jersey apple. 2 Jonna Gold apple. 2 Knox Black apple. 2 Liberty apples. 2 Medel d'Or. It's a French apple. They actually know it's known as a dessert apple. Very, very, very popular over in France. 2 Muscat de Dieppe. Don't know exactly how to pronounce that. Also a French dessert apple. Very cool. Very, very cool. 2 Northern Spy apples. 2 Red Delicious apples, obviously. 2 Red Devil apples. 2 Red Fuji. And 2 Red Macintosh from that grower. So that was just from that grower. Do they cross-pollinate? Well, they will cross-pollinate, but we're not saving seeds from the apples. The apples, what we are going to do, if someone comes to us and says, hey, I'm from this farm, we lost all of our Gravenstein apples, I'll say, okay, well, here's the deal. We have an heirloom preserve for a small fee. You can come onto our farm. You can take 10 cuttings, 20 cuttings of this Gravenstein for $10, like $1 a cutting, which is very fair. That's incredibly fair. And that way you can graft the Gravenstein apples back onto your rootstocks of choice, and you can restart your farm, because once you take a genetic graft, that becomes a clone of the original tree. Every Macintosh apple you've ever eaten has gone back to one Macintosh apple itself. And so really cool. Super, super cool. All right, shall we continue? There are more. By the way, this orchard is going to be roughly about 3 acres in size. 3 acres of apples. Well, other fruits as well, but 3 acres. So there's a lot. And we still plan to get more. So go over to migarden.com, adopt a tree, and let's make this thing a possibility. Let's make this a possibility, because there's a lot here, and I'm really excited about it. I can't wait to put your name on a tree. I really want to do it, and I think it's going to be so much fun. And we've already, let me see here. We've already had 52 adopted. So thank you so much. Thank you. Fireworks. Why? I guess that's amazing. Yes. Yes. 52 fireworks. Balloons. Give me those balloons. Give me them. Yeah. I don't know why it does that. Who knows? Okay. All right. What is the rootstock like on these trees? Good question. Angel Ratcliffe. So the rootstock is either going to be a semi-dwarf rootstock, or it's either going to be a dwarf rootstock, semi-dwarf rootstock, or a conventional rootstock. The rootstock that's grafted onto will decide how it grows. We're not going with any columnar, which I also saw that. There's no columnar, and there are not going to be any true dwarf, because we have 3 acres, so we have all the space, and they don't live as long. Okay, all right. So, all right, we have. Let's see here. That was the same reprint. Shoot, that was the same reprint. Well, there's going to be some more that we don't have. There's going to be a few we don't have, because that was a reprint. Oopsie doodle. Okay, that was my bad. There's going to be like 6 that I'm not going to mention, because it was I printed the same grower page twice. So whoopsie. There's another grower that is going to be. They're sending us. Well, I'll tell you. So they are sending us 6 pawpaws. So we have there's 2 trees of each different type of pawpaw. So 3 different varieties of pawpaw. And then we also are going to have there are what's coming from them? I think 4 other types of apples. So I apologize. All right, so continuing on here, we do have some more trees to go through. All right, we'll go with this one here. Those are peaches. I'll save those. Those are pears. Save those. Let's find the apples here. Okay. All righty, more apples. Okay. We have again 2 Pettingill apples, 2 King David apples, 2 Kendall Senap apples, 2 Holiday apples, 2 Howard Pippin apple, 2 Rome Beauty or Rome apple, 2 Wine Sap apples. I saw someone asking if we were going to get Wine Sap. So yes, we are getting Wine Sap. 2 White Limber Twig apples. White Limber Twig. Very cool. Very cool. 2 White Permian apples. 2 Swar apples. Swar. Swaar. Very cool. 2 Bramley's Seedling apple. This was essentially an apple. So apples are open pollinated, and essentially this is such a crazy statistic that it's going to blow your mind. So there's kind of a mathematical equation that is it's kind of known amongst apple breeders, and that's because so apples that are open pollinated, they will readily cross with any other apple that's flowering at the same time, as well as anything else in the apple family. So that would be things like crab apples as well. And there are so many different variations and uniquenesses that what happens is you get a unique cross every single time. You will never have ever the same apple ever again. And what they said is there's more if you take an apple seed and you plant that apple seed, there are more chances for variation before you come up with something identical. Like the odds of you coming up with something identical are the odds that are greater than the amount of grains of sand on Earth. I don't think as humans we can really quantify what that even, like, that number is so massive. It's so immense because there are so many possibilities there's so many possibilities for the cross, that just like you and I, you know how people say there's only one of you, like you are so unique. This is the same thing with apples, because there are literally tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of trees. A bird or a deer or whatever eats an apple, or you eat an apple and you chuck it out the window and it sprouts on the roadside. That might be, not only is that going to be a whole new apple variety, but it's also going to be possibly a really delicious apple. It could potentially be a very delicious apple that then becomes a whole new beautiful apple variety. And so coming back full circle to Bramley's seedling apple, it was just, there was a farm that was, the apples dropped, and it was this old farm, and basically the gentleman's name was Bramley, and well, that was his last name. His last name was Bramley, and it came from Bramley's farm, and they just found this seedling growing up, and they decided to cultivate it and see what happened. And it turned out to be this incredibly beautiful apple with like yellowish gold and red streaking on it. It was incredible, absolutely beautiful. And so they just gave it the name Bramley seedling apple. So yeah, it is. Yeah, my mind is blown too. My mind is blown as well. Let's see. Yeah, we are not talking about potatoes. We're talking about apples. We're talking about apples. Thank you so much, Sherry. Let's go. Okay, what's your apple question? Sorry, eating worms. There we go. Okay, I don't know why. There we go. Sherry just donated a tree. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Okay, here we go. Okay. Tanya, if you go over to migardener.com, you can adopt a tree. You go over to migardener.com, you search, just in the search bar, type in adopt a tree. You can go over there and do that. Cindy? Would it be possible for you to jump on the live and share the link? People are wondering how they could adopt a tree, and some people can't find it. Could you pretty please do that? Thank you so much, dear. Thank you. Love you. Okay. So we're going to continue on. So let's see here. We have 2 Brayburn apples, 2 Arkansas black apples, 2 Anna apple. Anna apple. Ooh, that's going to be a mind bender. Anna apple tree. ANNA. 2 Amer de Bethcourt apples. 2 Alexander apples. 2 Hawkeye apples. 2 Golden Noble apples. 2, ooh, this one's a German one. It's going to be difficult for me to pronounce. 2 Glockenapfel. 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 I tried. I gave it A for effort. Um, let's see. All right. Yeah, we're not building an ark. We're not building an ark. So no, this is not going to be like Noah's Ark. The only reason why we chose to is simply not only for cross pollination, which is great, but also, um, we're doing two in case something happens. Again, this is an heirloom preserve, and some of these they only had two left. We bought, like, if they had two, they're literally digging these up. They're in the ground. They're not like, they aren't mass produced. So a couple of these growers, it said they had two left. I called them up just to confirm they had two before we actually bought them. And a couple we only could get one. A couple we could only get one just because they only had one left in the ground. They're going to dig it up. They ship it in like a burlap, like a root. It's called a root pouch. They basically dig it up out of the ground and ship it to us on a truck. Which is crazy. Let's see here. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that so much. I appreciate that, SB. And North Star Prepstetter is in the house. North Star Prepstetter. There is not a list of these trees. There's not a list of these trees just because it's always growing. We're going to eventually have a list. Eventually, like, next year we're gonna have a list, because we still haven't even taken delivery of a lot of these trees. We got delivery of about 80 trees, 40 different varieties so far. But when it's all said and done, we're going to have over 120 varieties of apple trees. It's difficult to even wrap your mind around this. This is crazy. All right, so eventually we will have a list, I promise. Yes, these are apple trees, not just a year or two old sapling. They are trees, but they're not fruiting size. It'll take them another 2 to 3 years to start fruiting, some even 4 years to start fruiting. So it's going to take time. Again, the best time to plant an apple orchard, or the best time to plant any fruit tree, was 20 years ago. The next best time is today. And so we're doing that. We just got to take time. All right. So we got 2 Fuji apples. Orchard wouldn't be complete without Fuji. 2 Empire apple trees. 2 Dorset Golden apple trees. 2 Crimson Gold apple trees. 2 Cox Orange Pippin apple trees. Beautiful. They're like a rust colored apple, you guys. Oh my gosh, when I first saw this apple, I couldn't believe it. I've never seen an orange apple before. The thing looks orange. It's unreal. It's absolutely unreal. It's absolutely incredible. We have 2 cinnamon spice apples. We have 2 brown snout apples. Brown snout. I don't name them. But the great thing, like I said in the beginning, is they've got a story. They've got a story, and that story we want to be told. We want to keep that story around. We've got, this one's got a really cool story. I'm going to have to take a second. You guys have to bear with me for a second here. 2 smokehouse apples. So the story behind this one was there was a smokehouse. And if you know anything about smokehouses, applewood is a very popular wood for smoking meat. And the gentleman that ran this smokehouse had just a bunch of different apple trees growing that he was growing and cutting down for smoking wood. Well, one day, the a person came to his farm, or to his smokehouse, I should say, and noticed that there was a really pretty looking tree growing. And they asked him if he ever had eaten apples from it, and he said, "No, I've never eaten apples from it. It's never actually given any good apples to consume." So they convinced the owner of the smokehouse to not chop it down, but instead prune it properly, and be very aggressive with how you prune, so that it could start fruiting. And lo and behold, to the owner of the smokehouse, the apples not only were beautiful, but they tasted incredible. And so this variety they were all just these wild apples that were growing. And obviously, again, the number of apples could be potentially the likelihood of you getting an apple that's exactly the same. There are more grains of sand on Earth than the likelihood of you getting an identical apple from seed. And so this wild apple just happened to be an incredible apple that grew at this guy's smokehouse. And what would have been turned into smoking, wood to smoke meat, instead turned into a beautiful apple tree that gave apples. And then they took cuttings, and now it's known as the smokehouse apple, which is really cool. We have 2 Ozark apples, 2 non-such apple. Again, I don't even, it's the non-such apple. Let's see. We have 2 Mutsu apples. We have 2 Melrose apples, 2 Macintosh apples. Yeah, can't have an orchard without a Macintosh apple. 2 Maiden Blush apples. These apples are literally the prettiest apple I've ever seen in my entire human existence. It's giving me goosebumps remembering what this looked like. I saw the picture of the Maiden Blush apple. This thing is like a creamy yellow, almost, I wouldn't say white, but like a very pale creamy yellow. And it just, on one side of it, gets this incredibly rosy, blushy color that just, the two, like, if you ever seen like a Macintosh apple, a Macintosh apple is green with like a red blotch. This is like a creamy colored apple with a pink blotch. Whoa, the contrast is absolutely insane. So cool. 2 Maiden Blush apples, 2 King of the Pippins apple, 2 Jonathan apple, 2 Holstein apples. And last but not least is 2 Skinner's seedling apple. Again, it was a wild apple, tasted really good, and there you go. It was very, very cool. It was super cool. It's more of like it's like a flat apple. It's like almost like a donut. It's like a donut apple. It's really cool. All right. So now we're gonna fly through these here. We got some other ones. We got some pears. We're getting 2 Bartlett pears. We're getting 2 Forel pears, 2 Kiefer pears, 2 Magnus pear, 2 Red Clap's Favorite, 2 Warren pear, 2 White Doyenné pears, 2 Seckel pears, 2 Moonglow pears, 2 Summer Crisp pears, 2 D'Anjou pears, 2 green D'Anjou pears. It's the opposite of the red D'Anjou. These ones are green. Super cool. All right. 2, oh, it's German. I don't know German. Bluffendorf pears. Bluffendorf. I think that's how you pronounce it. I think it's Bluffendorf, but I have no idea. And that's the end of the pears. We are getting now into peaches. This is going to be fun. No, Tanya, we are not going to live on the land. We're not going to have our house on the land. Because it's going to be open to the public, we do definitely want some privacy. So we're not going to live there. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be so freaking cool, though. All right. Peaches. We've got 2 frost peach, 2 nectar peach, 2 O. Henry peach, 2 Red Haven peach, 2 Penatau peach, 2 Alberta peach, 2 Belle of Georgia peach. We also have, okay, so the Penatau peach is known as a donut peach. It's like a flat disc. Again, it looks like a donut, like that, like the Skinner's seedling apple. It's like these flat, super flat peach. We also have one called the Bachelor's Button peach. It's also a donut peach. Very rare. That one you really won't find it just about anywhere. It was a cross between. It was an intentional cross between the Penatau and the Red Haven. It's called the Bachelor's Button peach. Very cool. So those are the peaches so far. We are going to get more of them. Obviously, we are going to be getting a lot more. So please, again, if you want to donate a tree, make sure you go head over to migardener.com. You can donate a tree, and we still have a wish list of so many more we'd like to get. All right, we're into the cherries, and then we're going to finish up here because we're going to be at an hour-long live stream. So we have 2 Van cherries. Those are a sweet cherry, sweet black cherry, beautiful. 2 Stella cherries, 2 Late Duke cherries, 2 Kansas sweet cherries, 2 Black Tartarian cherries, 2 Traverse Delight cherries. These were born and bred in Traverse City, which is very cool. Traverse City is the leading world producer of cherries. Traverse City produces 10% of the world's supply of cherries. Incredible. So cool. So the Traverse Delight cherry, 2 Bing cherries, 2 Northern Star cherries. That one. And this one here has just 1 cherry. And it's, let's see. 2 Deglet cherries. There we go. This one had mostly pears on it. There was 1 cherry on here. 2 Deglet cherries. So very cool. So those are all the trees we have actually purchased. Again, if you would like to donate a tree to the farm, you go over to migardener.com, you buy a tree. That price is reflective of the cost of a tree for us to go out and purchase a tree. We'll go out and purchase a tree in your name. When your tree has been purchased, we will take and you can buy more than one. Some people have already bought 4 trees. One person bought 5 trees. So it's limited. Like when we fill up the orchard, when we fill up all 3 acres that we have allocated for the orchard, we're not getting any more trees. So it is kind of limited. So make sure if you want to go get some trees, definitely do that. But yeah, so the trees are going to be one person per tree. So you're not going to be sharing a tree with somebody. I want that to be super clear. This is not a profit motive. So there's no, we're not going to have like 6 name tags on a single tree. One name, one tree. That's why it's important. It's super important to us that there's something community-based and important about it. And that way, when you go to your tree in 2 or 3 years from now, when the farm is actually open and ready to rock, you can go over to your tree and you can say, "Oh my gosh, like I helped to donate this heirloom Red Clap's favorite peach to the farm. And I'm doing my part to preserve biodiversity, and I love that." And so that's super cool. Again, Mrs. and my gardener and I are going to get a piece of cedar. We're going to get a piece of cedar, and we're actually going to burn your name, or the person's name you're donating the tree for. We're actually going to burn the name into a piece of cedar. We're going to drill a hole through the tag. Then we're going to take a piece of wire, and we're going to attach that to the tree loosely so it can grow. But we're talking, the tree branch might be like the size of my finger, and we're going to put it on a ring that's like this big, a piece of wire that's like this big around. It's going to be dangling there on the tree. And that will ensure that the tree, no matter how thick that branch gets, it's never going to girdle it. It's never going to harm the tree, but it's going to stay with it forever. Forever, it's going to stay on that tree. And Heidi, this starts right now. We're already taking delivery of these trees. So if you go over to migardener.com, you can donate a tree to the farm, and we'll put one in your name. We'll put one in your name. What if the tree passes? Will it be replaced? Absolutely, absolutely. And we're expecting this. As much as we are going to love and nurture and care for these trees, we have. That's why we're getting 2 of every variety. But we also are aware that things happen. Things do happen, and so it will be replaced. And if it gets replaced, your name tag will be moved to a new tree, hopefully of the same variety, but no promises. We're going to do our very best. We're going to do our very, very, very best. Yes, so that will definitely be a priority. What else? Are you going to be growing them organically? Absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to be growing them as organically as humanly possible. We're not going to be like a certified organic farm, but if you come to the farm and you eat one, like, you are going to be able to eat it right off the tree. You're give a little brush on your shirt and eat it. We're not going to be using any pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, other than what is accepted for organic use and organic practice. So yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, North Star. North Star Prep Center just adopted a tree. That's great. So yeah, let's see. No, the trees are not all in pots, Carol. The trees are not all in pots. The trees are going to be in ground. We're going to plant them at our farm. And so they're definitely not going to be in pots. They're going to be in ground where trees can be trees. Their roots can go. Let's see. I did see a question I wanted. Who's your pioneer? Are you getting plums or persimmons? Absolutely, absolutely, 100%. This list, these pages here were just from 4 different nurseries we ordered from, but we have 3 acres allocated for this orchard, and absolutely, plums, peaches, nectarines, for sure, persimmons, pears, apples. We're not going to do grapes. We are not going to do grapes. Grapes are way too much maintenance. The nice thing about these trees is they don't vine. they don't spread. So we're not doing that. We are not going to do blueberries. Unfortunately, we're not doing blueberries. The soil could grow blueberries. The problem is blueberries are very, very labor intensive. And again, the problem is that we can protect these apple trees to the best of our ability from things like deer. We're not able to grow enough blueberries to make it worthwhile, and the amount of space and time it would take up it'd be very cost prohibitive for us to do that. So we're sticking to fruit trees. So, but yes, we are planning on doing plums and persimmons as well as things like nectarines. So yeah, lots more, and that's, we're gonna over the course of a year or two. Any nuts? Any nuts? Yeah, so we are not doing nuts. We're not doing nuts. Yeah, Nancy, for sure. So since you want to be a stick in the mud, I will absolutely address your comment. Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable that we would go out and spend $200,000 on land to simply purchase about let's see, $12,000 in apple trees, of which we could never eat that many, and literally let them sit on the ground to rot, or then be bred out of existence where the stories would be lost forever, and have a line of about 300 people so far that want to donate a tree that can't donate them. Maybe they've lost a loved one, or maybe they don't have a home yet, and they want to have a tree that's going to stand the test of time, or maybe they're moving and they just want to make sure that a tree can be planted in their name. It would be unbelievable, and it would also be unbelievable for us to take the time to make a cedar tag, so that when you do come to the farm, you can say that that's your tree, and you take a little bit of pride in that. Some people really appreciate that. You are obviously not that person, so that's all the spotlight you're going to get. All right. So yeah, but nevertheless, we're really happy about it. And also too, when we do our party days, like when the farm is open and we have like cider and donut days, those are free events. That's not going to be charged. Those are free events. Those are outreach events where we can show people what is going on. And the only person that's not invited is Nancy. That's the only person that's not invited. So everybody else is invited. It's an open invite when that time comes in 2 or 3 years. And I'm sure Nancy is not going to want to come anyways. It won't be fun. So, like I said, free cider and donuts. And so, yeah. So, yeah, like I said, free cider and donuts. We do things for free because it's not always a profit first motive. It's passion over profit. And the thing is, it's incredibly, this is something that we are passionate about, but we know that there's a lot of other people that are passionate about this as well. And they don't have the outlet that would allow them to do something like this. And so that's why it's community based. That's why it's community based. It's so important to make it community based because, again, with our limited resources, we would not be able to do this. We would not be able to do this with our limited resources. I mean, again, it is not financially reasonable for us to buy $10,000 in apple trees with with literally just the goal of preserving biodiversity. Like when the fruit trees are fruiting, we absolutely plan on taking some fruit to local farmers markets. We absolutely plan on having them available at our shop. We probably will absolutely do like a tasting box where you can like order a box of these heirloom apples tagged with the names, and you can try each one if you can't make it to the farm. Um, we have to find ways to monetize. We also have a farm manager who's going to be working there full time, maintaining the farm and the trees and continuing our mission. I will also be there part time, about 3 days out of the week, to manage the trees, manage the grounds, do all of that. All of that's incredibly expensive. So far, the farm, just the land, the earthwork, the pond, the well, the tractor, the barn that we're putting up, and all the permits and the driveway have totaled about $210,000. So we'll have about $250,000 invested in this farm as of like the end of next week. And that is not free. That doesn't just poof in the middle of nowhere. So we're going to be selling seeds for sure. We're going to be cultivating seeds. We are for sure going to be doing, adopt an heirloom tree. We are for sure going to be doing ways to monetize this in the future, because it's a business. It's a business, and we need to make sure that our business is also maintaining our mission. And yeah, absolutely, Rick, a mower for sure, and gas, and like, yeah. Yeah, so that's it. But yeah, and also, so I think there's a lot of people, not a lot, there's a couple of people that are thinking that this is like simply a profit first motive. Again, the apple trees are simply if you'd like to adopt an apple tree. So far, over 150 people have already adopted an apple tree, and that's awesome. Because again, some people understand what a tree signifies. Trees have always signified life. Trees have always stood the test of time. There are trees that are as old as Earth. And we as society are so narrow-minded. We're so short-sighted. And I think there's been a resurgence and an appreciation there's been a resurgence and appreciation in planning for past our time on Earth. We've for the longest time lived for the day. We have pillaged the earth for our own gain. We have polluted our waterways for our own gain. We have polluted our air for our own gain. We have, we've been mass consumerists for our own gain, and we have deprived people of human rights and aided countries in things like slave labor for our own gain. And what I'm so happy about is that there's now this great awakening where we say, hang on a second. The me mentality is going to end very badly. The me mentality is going to end super, super badly. I need to plan for my children's future. I need to plan for my children's future, because if I'm only living for me, somewhere down the line, someone's going to pay. Someone is going to pay the price for that neglect. And that's what this is all about. A tree that we're planting in someone's name is basically giving you the opportunity to say, this tree we're going to be a good steward of the land, but we're also going to be good stewards of these heirloom varieties that are long going to live past my life. They're long going to live past my children's life if we do the right thing and we set things up accordingly. And so a few people don't understand that, because a few people are probably still They're either jealous of the fact that they didn't have the idea, which I'm probably leaning more towards that, or they are, or they're very narrow-minded in that they don't see the value of having a tree that lasts. Some of these trees that we have already ordered, the only reason why they're even around is because people have taken cuttings from them, but the actual tree dates back over 200 years. There are trees that predate the beginning of the United States, the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Like this country is only 250 years old. This country is only 250 years old. And there are apple trees here that have a story that lasts longer and older than 250 years old. That means when we plant these trees, the hope is that they will be around for the next 100 or 200 or 250 years. And when we're all driving around in flying cars like the Jetsons, there's going to be this place that is not touched. There will be skyscrapers and flying cars and buildings made of glass all around, and it'll be completely populated, and there'll be this one 36-acre spot in the middle of all the development that, against all valuation, all bribery or threats of destruction, will be this oasis that will be there forever. That's the point. That's the point. Because it's not about profit. Because when it's only about profit, you are more likely to neglect the earth. You're more likely to neglect others. You're more likely to neglect the air, the water, the soil. A profit-first motive gets you nowhere, absolutely nowhere, and it completely leads you in the wrong direction, and it's not sustainable. It is literally the most unsustainable motive ever. And so what we're doing is we are shifting our motive to community-based heirloom preservation. Community-based heirloom preservation. And it's just the start. So I am super pumped about it, if you can't tell. And I'm glad to hear that a lot of you are super pumped about it as well. So I have got to get to bed because I have to be up super early. We are planting more trees tomorrow. We're planting more trees tomorrow. And yeah, so if you want to go adopt a tree, go head over to migardener.com. Adopt a tree. If you don't want to, you don't have to. Like, absolutely, I would never ask anything of someone that they don't want to do. But yeah, we are going to yeah, and obviously too, just even sharing with a friend, liking this video, subscribing, or whatever. Like, you don't have to go adopt a tree. I don't mind. I'll love you all the same. I love you all the same. Even Nancy. Even Nancy. We all have days where we wake up on the wrong side of the bed. So yeah, enough of that. Anyways, love you all so very much. I'm gonna get off to bed here, and I thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to hang out with you guys. I'll answer this question real quick because it just came up. Noah asked, how many trees are you planting? So we're planning for 3 acres of trees. That's how much space we have allocated. That comes out to about 350 to roughly 370 fruit trees. Depending on the tree, depending on the spacing, will kind of depend on that. So thank you so much, Robert. I appreciate that. And yeah, and if it's available and there are trees in stock, you can donate one. And we will, yeah, we'll start. I don't know when we'll start tagging trees. It might not be for a week or two, but obviously we're not going to lose sight of, I mean, if you buy a tree, we've got it in the system. Once things settle down a little bit, Mrs. and my gardener and I are going to go to the hardware store. We're going to get our little circular saw. We're going to bing, 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 cut those tags out, burn them up, and then we're going to drill the holes, assembly line style, and then we're going to pop them on the trees as soon as we can. So yeah, absolutely. So thank you guys so much. We love you so very much. And I feel the love as well. I really do. You guys are amazing, and you enabled me to do things that I never thought were possible. You guys, my beautiful wife, and my amazing team that helps get us through the day. You guys are all part of this mission of making gardening more exciting, more accessible for all, and as well as helping preserve heirlooms. Because hey, if it's not for heirlooms, we got nothing. So, anyways, love you all so very much. Have a wonderful night. And as always, this is Luke from the My Gardener channel reminding you to grow bigger. Thank you all so very much. All right, bye.